Okay, so this is part 2 of my injury prevention sequence. The first part is in my links. So this is just the basic setup for Tadasana. We're going to go through a standard sun salutation. And so when you're ready, just come into your downward dog. So I like to set this up through tabletop. So for tabletop, there are actually 2 ways of doing tabletop. You can bring the wrists further away towards the front of the mat, or further away from the center of the body towards the front of the mat, and then take the knees a little bit wider. So this engages through the core just a little bit more. Like I said in the other video, every time you take the limbs away from the center of gravity, your body is going to be working harder to stabilize it. So that adds power to your practice. If you come to a neutral tabletop, draw the knees so they stack under the hips, and then bring the wrists so they're stacking underneath the shoulders here. So we can start through the cat-cows. These were in the other video, but there's no harm in doing a little bit more just to warm up through the spine, lengthening through the tailbone, and then releasing the chest and the tail towards the ceiling. So as I said previously, you've got to bend and wrap the elbows to keep safe in your practice, and we can take this straight into the downward dog. So once you've got the bend and wrap on the elbows, you can start to press and squeeze the thumbs together. Push the pointer finger away as you tuck the toes, and then lift the hips to the ceiling. So option is you can keep a bend in the knees, you can keep the heels raised. The main idea is that you just keep the ears in line with the upper arms, and then you want to keep the biceps wrapped towards the front of the mat. So as you gain a little bit of flexibility through your practice, you may be able to slowly release the heels a little bit closer towards the floor, but lengthen out through the sides of the body, lifting the tailbone high, and then you can bring the shoulders up towards the ears. So from here you can pedal out the feet, you can find stillness, it's up to you how you want to work your downward dog. And then we're just going to draw the right knee in towards the chest. Send it back for your 3-legged dog. So from here you can draw the knee in towards the chest again, and this time we're going to create a little bit of a spinal roll. So you come up high through the shoulders and allowing a little bit of space through the shoulders. This creates the knee to draw into the chest. This creates the lift to float that foot in between the palms of the hands. So from here, we've already done Kapayasana to half split, so we're going to take it into a little bit more of a standing sequence. So from here, you can just start to pulse that front leg, stretching and straightening, bending and stretching, into your triangle back. So the back foot's on a 45-degree angle and the front foot is parallel or in line with the sides of the mat. So the toes are facing forward. From here, we're going to straighten the front leg, come into your pyramid. So you can either come up to standing, hands up high, or you can keep it low. So you can bring the hands to heart center and then watch the back alignment through the spine. So you really want to keep that nice flat spine. You don't want to be rounded over. It may take a while to get there, but that's where our focus is. We just want to keep lengthening the tailbone, similar to half splits. Keep lengthening the tailbone towards the back of the room. So from here, we're going to release the palms of the hands into your triangle. So place one hand, if you have your blocks, I should have said before. If you've got a block, place it on the inside of the foot, and then it allows you to come up a little bit higher. So from here, release the fingertips towards the ceiling, and then notice how the hips are. So we're going to bring a little bit of awareness to that front hip. There is a bone and you can't go any further down unless you draw that hip back and around, if that makes sense. So instead of jamming the hip into the bone, it won't be able to go any further. If you kind of bring the hips back and around to like set the socket up for success, and then release the top hand up to the ceiling, you may find that you're coming down a little bit further. And then you still engage through the core. So there's a lift when I engage through the core, you can see it. And then I'm pulling the fingertips away from each other here. When you're ready, we're going to take this into Skandasana. So this is going to add a little bit of flexibility to the posture. So we just bend through the back knee, release that front heel. And again, option is to stay low, like I said before. As soon as we add the arms, I'm going to show that in a minute. But please stay low if that's going to work for you. If you want to increase the intensity, bring the hands up and over. Through heart center, and then exhale. So when you're ready, come back to the front of the mat where you were, and then come back through your triangle as you exhale. This time we're going to sweep the hands around. We're going to come through the pyramid. So bring the hands through heart center, exhale, sweep the hands back, and then if you can, lift the heels, come through your crescent lunge. So we're going through a little bit of a pyramid flow here into your crescent. From here, we're going to arrive eventually into Tadasana. So if you can, float that leg up for your warrior three, then float that knee towards the front of the mat. Release the feet and come into your forward fold. So we're going to work a little bit here. Come through your halfway lift. Exhale back into your forward fold. This time we're going to come up through Tadasana. So I cue it to bring the backs of the hands together and then release the fingertips. So therefore, you're not trying to bring the palms of the hands together. You're not creating excess tension or tightness through the shoulders. Sometimes if we bring the palms together and then we bring the elbows or the upper arm in line with the ears, it creates a back bend, and we're not trying to do a back bend just yet. So we will get there, but for now we just want to really align through that Tadasana, through that alignment. So to do so, you can start from the ground up. So you lift the toes, press them in towards the floor, and then again wrap the calves around. So you can even place blocks in between the calves and the thighs. So you're going to be wrapping here and around the thighs. So this tethers you down to the floor. Then you can start to lengthen through the tailbone, knitting the hips and the ribs together to create that core engagement. Relax through the shoulders, and then eventually just bring the backs of the hands together, release them open exactly where they land. So the shoulders are stable, they're not crunched up, and they're not going to lift to create tension, just to get the palms touching. So backs of the hands together, release the fingertips open, keeping the hands as wide as you need to relax down through the shoulders, keeping the core engaged, and then lengthen through the crown of the head. So if you need to remove the blocks, just make sure that you keep the wrap here. From here, we're going to go into a lateral extension. So exhale and then take the hip to the outer edge of the foot just to create a little bit more extension here. When you're ready, pull the core in to come back to standing, find the alignment through neutral, and then exhale, take it on the other side. So you can practice playing around with that for a couple of rounds. Just make sure every time you transition to the side and then back, you're finding that length through the spine, you're finding that realignment. So you can add a back bend to this as well. You can bring the pelvis forward, sweep the arms up and over the head, and then exhale through your back bend. So if that's a little bit too intense, drop the hands away. Interlace the fingers together, place them behind the head, and then just support the head opening up through the chest. The other option is, if you find it a little bit too intense through the lower lumbar, place the thumbs on either side of the spine, and then exhale as you fold forward. So you're really supporting the body to go up and out of the lower lumbar rather than dumping into it. When you're ready, you're going to release back into your forward fold as you exhale. From here, we're going to bend through the knees. I'm going to give you the full chaturanga cues with the blocks if you want to take it. Otherwise, just dropping through knees, chest, chin. But the idea is that we come through our halfway lift as you exhale. If you need to set up the blocks, place them in front of the fingertips, and then enough so that you'll be able to eventually drive down through plank to have the blocks underneath the shoulders. So from here, Stepping back out the way you came, just come through you'll take the left foot down towards the back of the mat, come through your runner's lunge, push the floor away, bring the knee in towards the chest, send it to the back of the mat. From here, we draw the body forward. So you're drawing and training the shoulders to be where they need to be, which is over the blocks or over the fingertips if you don't have the blocks. So wrap the elbows around to the sides of the body, bend, relax the shoulders onto the blocks, and this prevents you from bending more than a 90-degree angle through the elbows. From here, you press up, pulling the body up and away from the lower lumbar spine. So you lengthen through the crown of the head. Just don't look all the way up because that's going to crank through the cervical spine. And then draw the low belly in. As I drag the mat, that's how much resistance I have through the ball or the tops of the feet. And then you start to pedal out the feet through your down dog. As you exhale, relax. If you need the knees, chest, chin option, drive into your plank, bend the elbows to your 90-degree angle, drop the knees, untuck the toes. Pull the spine forward, and then you may need to move the blocks for this one. You're going to roll the whole body down. From here, squeeze the shoulder blades together, place the fingertips underneath the shoulders, press up, knees wide in for your child's pose. And then you just relax the breath. So again, same idea. If you're taking child's pose option, a really nice option is to take the hands off the side of the mat, crossing the palms over top of each other, and then just breathe through the stretch. So you're coming into a child's pose banana extension, similar to what we did from standing. Then just allowing the breath to massage through the intercostal muscles here on one side. And then exhale, coming back through neutral, find that length and extension before you take it onto the other side, because we don't want to be dumping in through the joints. When you're ready, we're going to take that on the other side. So, tuck the toes, lift the hips, find your downward dog. When you're ready, this time it's left knee in towards the chest, send it up for your three-legged dog. So, from here, option, draw the knee back into the chest, find that little spinal roll. So it's similar to a plank, really press high, shoulder blades away from each other. To create the space, you need to float the foot slowly in front towards the front of the mat and between the palms of the hands. So same idea, find the runner's lunge. If you want to find a little bit of a pulse here, just do what your body needs, just listen to the body. And then when you're ready, plant the back feet on a 45-degree angle. And at first you can just work on straightening that front leg, bending into it and just straightening it. So we're going to find the triangle on this side. If you need a block, take it here, but then just mainly work on rotating that hip around so that you can create the space to drive the hip where it needs to be, to extend the hand towards the block, perhaps even towards the floor. And then you just extend that top arm up. So you're really driving through the tips of the fingers, finding that length, that extension here. When you're ready, we're going to bend and stretch. If you're ready, come into your Skandasana. So either hands on the floor or hands on the block as you just work the legs. Otherwise, creating a little bit of power, bringing the hands up and over as you move from front to the back of the mat. Just working the bend through the knees, creating a little bit of flexibility through the inner thighs, as well as a little bit of power here. When you're ready, come back into your triangle pose. Find it here, and then we're going to weave or float the hands towards the front of the mat. This time we're going to square the hips parallel to the floor. So we're going to find a pyramid. As you exhale, you can float the hands towards the back of the mat, and then inhale, come through your halfway lift. So there's a few variations you can take for your pyramid. You can even bring the hands through heart center, or you can take the reverse prayer. So this creates a little bit of a back bend, very similar to half splits. It's a self-assist to make sure that you are bending. The other thing is, if you do lose your balance, take the feet wider apart so the pelvis feels more stable. You're changing the center of gravity, so the wider the feet, the more stability you're going to find in your practice. When you're ready, release. And then from here, we're going to come back up through your crescent and then see if you can bring it through that full flow. So you come up through crescent, exhale in through your pyramid. Just really gently using the breath. Then when you're ready, we're going to float that back foot up into your warrior three, if you can. So back foot, lift. And you can just play around with this, coming through your warrior one or your crescent into your warrior three until you find the stability here. When you're ready, float that back leg in, place it in between at the front of the mat, beside the supporting one, and then exhale through your forward fold. So this time we're going to take a wide angle forward fold. You can take the feet wide apart, and then if you can, catch onto the big toes, peace fingers around the big toes, bringing the toes towards each other, heels apart, and then exhale. So you can, if you can, release the crown of the head towards the floor. If not, you can place it on a block, but you're still stimulating the mama points through the crown of the head. And then just work gravity here, releasing tension through the spine as you inhale and exhale. So there are a few options you can take here. You can take the hands to one side, to one leg, and then just really work on stretching through one leg, and then you can take it through to the other leg. You can bring it into a twist. You can place one hand underneath the body, open up the right hand to the ceiling, and then replace the right hand underneath the face on the block, release the other hand up. So the other option you can take is to really maximize the stretch here. Bring the hands underneath the body, through the gap in the legs, and then you're really going to pull the whole body so it eventually gets underneath the legs. And then from here, you can take this into a goddess flow. So you can turn the heels towards each other, hands to heart center if you need to find your balance, and then just work on pressing down through your goddess and then up to straight legs. So there's still a few points of activation we can go through here. You can squeeze the heels together, squeezing through the inner thighs, lengthen through the tailbone, and then hopefully this brings all the weight to the lower body so you can feel free in the upper body. Just squeezing and opening through the chest. And then when you're ready, release. We're going to come into Malasana. So you can come back through your wide angle forward fold and then just heel toe the feet a little bit closer towards each other. So this is the Malasana squat, and it's going to prepare us for crow entry. From here, if you need to, you can sit up higher on the blocks, and this just gives you a little bit more extra support. So if you don't need the blocks, you can just relax, and you're really using the elbows to press the knees wide. So the back or the tailbone is nice and straight all the way through to the crown of the head, and we're just really finding the weight heavy through the tailbone here. So I'm going to take you through the crow sequence that I have. To start with, you can place the blocks behind the body and then just stand up on the blocks. So you're going to be leveraging the knees into the armpits. And then same idea that we set up for tabletop and downward dog. We really want to bend through the elbows and then wrap the biceps around to the front of the mat. Squeeze the thumbs together, press the pointer fingers away towards the front of the mat. And then slowly you can just start to lift the hips. So you don't even need to come up off the blocks, and you can just practice pulling the head forward, looking a ridiculous amount forward. and then sending the weight back. So once you get the hang of this and you feel a little bit more safe and secure in your practice, round out through the shoulder blades, lift the hips, and then you can play around with tapping one foot off the block and then the other. Once you've got the hang of all of it, then you're welcome to play around with lifting the hips, rounding out through the shoulder blades, sending the weight forward, and then lifting both heels towards the glutes, and then relax. So that's just the basic crow variation. If you prefer, also just knowing if you sit in Malasana for 3 minutes a day, that's really super beneficial for regulating your bowel motions. And in yoga, it's important to have regular bowel motions because we're transferring the toxins in the body from food and other substances through the lines of energy. So we want to be really good with eliminating toxins. So if you just want to stay in your Malasana squat for 3 minutes a day, it's still completely beneficial for the body. I'm going to give you the reclined crow option as well, that you can, this will incorporate a little bit of core work into the practice without going too extreme, but it gives you the idea of how much core work you actually need in your practice. So to start with, just roll down flat on the back. You're welcome to take happy baby if you like, just catching the outer edges, soles of the feet, bringing the knees somewhere towards the armpits. And with happy baby, we want to keep the tailbone nice and heavy. So this is the first option. You can just rock side to side, just gently massaging the muscles on either side of the spine into the mat. And then we can take it into a little bit more of a core workout. So by doing so, we're going to lift up through the tailbone. So the tailbone lifts up into a reverse crunch. We lift up the head, round out through the shoulder blades, so everything is lifted up, and then the knees are going to draw in towards the armpits here. And then we push the palms of the hands towards the ceiling, and then really work the heel of the hand up. So already you may be feeling how much core that you're using. You may be feeling that core line from the breastbone to the pubic bone, and then you can just start to activate a little bit of pulsing action here. So really pressing the palms towards the ceiling, crunching through the upper body as you lift the tailbone up even higher off the floor. Or you can go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, when you're ready, relax. We're going to, if you need to, take a little bit of a windshield wiper here, just rock the knees side to side. And then I'm going to take you back through crow so I can demonstrate what you can do with crow once that you start to sequence and build the strength in your practice. So if you want to come through crow again, if not, just don't worry about it. Just keep working where works for you. You can go back to happy baby. So with the crow, there is another one. Some people do not like falling forward on their heads, and it's a legitimate fear. So there is another balance that you can take. This one's a little bit more challenging for flexibility, but sometimes it's just good to have the awareness of what the body is capable of. So you're dropping the shoulders into a forward fold, and then you're bringing the shoulders and wrapping them, similar to what we did in the other video for your lizard lunge backpack. This time we're just doing it from a standing position and just really working the shoulders. So you can come into a little bit of a wrap here. You can even, if you can, draw or hook the ankles together. And this just really squeezes the shoulders in. It's what you need. The shoulders need to be really pressed in towards each other. Then from here, you just release the legs into your firefly and then press up in through crow. So same idea. Press the shoulders apart from each other and then just draw the heels together up towards the glutes. From here, you can drop back into your chaturanga, press, landing 90 degrees, coming up through your upward dog, and then exhale into your downward dog. So, if that's something that you prefer, because when you're in your firefly pose, you're really only going to fall back on your tailbone. Gently. and then you can press back up into it. So if that's a more suitable arm balance for you to play around with in practice, then you can even work from turtle actually. So turtle is the bind on the floor, and then you just stay here. You don't have to go any further than that. The knees are just bent, if you can see, and then you just wrap the hands down. So to take it a little bit further, as you gain more flexibility or strength through your practice, you can actually take the hands underneath and then release the feet underneath the head. So you're just going a little bit deeper here. And then getting a little bit advanced here, so don't worry about it if it's not for you. Lift the tailbone up and then extend through your firefly. Press up in through your crow and then into your chaturanga, all the way down to the floor. So from here, we're going to go into a bow pose. If you need another chaturanga demonstration, ideally you just go through plank. Drop the elbows to a 90-degree angle. Come forward, pulling up and out of the lower lumbar. Draw the tops of the feet together towards the wrists, and then you can relax down through child's pose, finding that length here or the rest. Otherwise, the other option is to come through your knees, chest, chin, which is far less intense and way more gentle. So same idea, bend through the elbows, drop the knees, pull the body so the spine is nice and flat. So there's space as you roll down, finding the space. And then from here, squeeze the shoulder blades together into your cobra. This is where we're going to go into the bow pose. So just stay here, stay flat on the mat, and then we're just going to do a little bit of a locust sequencing to get those muscles in the back of the body activated. So from here, so you can see the muscles working in the back. Release the hands out in front of the body. Exhale. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Inhale. Bring the hands out in front. Exhale. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. So ideally, as you're lying here, you can create a little bit of space through the joints just by heel toeing the toes towards the back of the mat. So you can stay here, do this for about 3 or 4 repetitions, just really starting to activate through the upper thoracic spine, but making sure that the core is still switched on. So you're not just allowing gravity to pull the body down towards the floor. We're using a little bit of resistance and a little bit of core engagement while we can. When you're ready, we're going to add on. This time we're going to press one foot up towards the ceiling, press it up, and then drop it down. At the same time, we're still going to be working the strength through the upper body by squeezing and cactusing the elbows down into your cactus arm and then extending up. So eventually we're going to do both legs at the same time, but I just want you to bring awareness to how high you can lift that the quad off the floor when that supporting leg is still outstretched to help. So eventually, as you lift the kneecap up off the floor, lifting the quad, pressing the heel in towards the ceiling, and then notice how high you can get with just one leg. So eventually we're going to add both legs. See if you can get the same height that you can with a single leg. It's going to be a little bit harder, a little bit more challenging, but we're really just working into those muscles that it takes to get into the next pose. So from here, this is the most important part. If you can, press the heels towards the back of the head, reach evenly at the same time to catch on to the ankles, which means you're not supposed to be grabbing one leg and then the other, because you're going to be dumping in towards the lower lumbar or that spine, and you're going to be, instead of using the muscles, you're just going to be grinding into the joints to get into the posture. So if you are not able to catch on evenly and at the same time, you're going to be working harder because you don't have the bind just yet. But this is where you want to be working until you build this strength through the body. So when you're ready, and if you can catch on, you're going to be able to relax a little bit, but we really want to keep working the muscles, keep pressing everything up towards the ceiling. So just because we have the bind, it doesn't mean that we want to relax the body any less. We just use the bind as well as a self-assist with all of the muscles that we've just strengthened through the body to keep pressing up higher. Just make sure you're still breathing, and then when you're ready, relax. So we're going to come into flapping fish, which is, we just draw one leg up and then draw the elbow in line. If you wanted, where you can windshield wiper to come out of it, just float the feet back and forth, rotating through the hips. Just working a little bit of breath back into the body, allowing the heart rate to come back down. Back bends are always a really good way of energizing the body. And then when you're ready, just come into the flapping fish on the other side. So one leg is out straight, one leg is bent to about a 90-degree angle, and then releasing the elbow on the same leg that's bent, just a little bit closer towards each other. And then just finding a way to relax here. So when you're ready to come back out of it, or you can take it on the other side, and then switch sides. And then when you're ready to come back into the practice, we're going to go onto the back. So just roll over here. We're going to go into shoulder stand. It is a little bit intense. So you can just come into supported waterfall, which just means placing the block underneath the hips and then releasing the feet, the soles of the feet towards the ceiling. So the option, you can actually work with the height of the blocks. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you're welcome to do so. With the shoulder stand, again, it takes a lot of core work to actually properly get up into shoulder stand. So from here, see if you can pick the hips up off the floor. So you're coming into a reverse crunch, and then bring the shoulders. So the hips are stacked over the shoulders. And then from here, you can bring it into a little bit of a split flow, opening up one leg and then the other leg. So I'm breaking my own general rule here. Once you're in the shoulder stand, keep the neck in line with the body, which means no looking side to side to see what I'm doing. So you just stay where you are once you've got the weight up, draw the soles of the feet together, open the legs through straddle, and then you can come through plow. So again, this is probably a more advanced practice, but it's something that you can work towards in your own practice. Once you start to get the hang and you find a little bit of mobility in the body. So from here, I just interlace the fingers as the feet are over and above the head. And then you can bend the knees to either side of the face, really working the length through the cervical spine. So you can do little circles here, drawing circles either on the floor or in the air if you can. 3 circles one way, and then 3 circles the other way. Just watching if you're catching onto the mat. And then when you're ready, just start to roll down vertebrae by vertebrae. We're going to come into a twist. So for the neutral twist, just a gentle twist, you can just drop both knees to one side. Just making sure that both shoulder blades are flat on the mat. And then just allow the body to breathe. So really gently expanding like a balloon, allowing the balloon belly breath. And then when you're ready, taking it back to neutral, and then taking the legs over to the other side. So again, same idea. Just really allowing the shoulder blades to relax completely on the floor. And then just allowing all the tension to come out of the abdominals by really working the breath so that it balloons up or the belly balloons up with the inhale. And then as you exhale, just allowing the breath to draw the belly closer towards the spine. And just taking a few more rounds in this variation. And then when you're ready, drawing the knees back together, back in line. So you can take, the other option is to take the eagle wrap. So this time you can wrap the left leg, we'll start with the left leg, over the right leg. Lift the hips, send them towards the left side of the mat as you drop the knees towards the right side of the mat. So same idea, you're really working to keep the shoulder blade flat on the floor, and if that means that you need to lift up the knees to make sure that opposite shoulder blade doesn't come up, then place a block underneath the knees. Will give you a little bit of extra support here. Then when you're ready, taking it over to the other side, wrapping the right leg around the left, lift the hips, take them towards the right side of the mat. Have your block ready if you need it. Just making sure that both shoulder blades are flat on the floor. As you allow the belly to inhale and exhale. And then when you're ready, coming back to neutral, realign the pelvis. And then release the feet flat into, I'm tempted to go into Shavasana. We've still got time for a little bit more stretching. So haven't really incorporated any stretching into the other video, so I'll do it in this one. So the first one is a really good one for the outer hip. So it incorporates a little bit more twisting as well. So we'll start with the left leg. You can either have the right leg out in front of you long and then just bend the left leg so the ankle is crossed over the right thigh. From here, reach the right hand up and over and exhale. So the option is to draw that heel towards the glute and then coming into the twist. If you have the bind, you're going to wrap that hand in through the gap, and then the opposite hand tries to catch on. I'll show you the other way. Here. And so you're just creating the bind again. If you've got a strap, that may be a little bit easier for you to use. From here, we're going to, option is to come into a little bit of a deeper stretch. So we're going to take it into shoelace. And then, depending on how hypermobile you are, or even just the way your hip socket sits, the ball sits in the hip socket joint, will depend on your range of motion for this. So if you can move the shins towards the front of the mat. If not, and it starts to create a lot of tightness or tension through the hips, just draw the heels back towards the glutes. And then from here, you can just fold forward. You can add the full cow face option. So you bring the left hand and then right hand to meet each other. I'll show you this way again. So they go like this. And then you can fold forward from there on the exhalation. Just taking a couple of deep breaths here to really find your depth of the posture. Then when you're ready, exhale. So we're going to take it into baby or preparation for compass. So if you can, just pull the shin up towards the chest. If you can make a cradle with the elbow, and then just gently rock side to side. From here, we're going to drop the shoulder. Again, this is getting to the more advanced sequence. So as your practice does progress, you may find a little bit more range of motion. Just drop the shoulder underneath that knee, and then see if you can open and straighten the leg. Pointing the foot and releasing here through your compass. And then we've got lotus. So if you can, draw that heel up there, wrap the other one up on top, come in through a little arm balance. Otherwise, just release and let go. How I get out of it, rolling over, just to create a little bit more mobility through the hips, and then exhale back. So from here, if you want to, you can cross, standing up in your cross-legged variation, and then swivel around. So you're coming up through the other side into your twist. So again, either leg out in front, coming into the twist, or towards the glute. and then finding the bind. So the bind could be either opposite elbow to the opposite knee. You could wrap it under here, catching on opposite hand, and then you're really working that shoulder open here as you inhale and exhale. From here, you can take it into shoelace. So again, same idea, if you want to just fold forward from here, or taking the hand bind behind you, and then exhale down. Just working the breath into the tight areas of the body, that deep sensation that you can feel. You can even exhale to go a little bit deeper and inhale to come out of it. So when you're ready, we're just going to take the cradle, just gently rocking the shin, and then dropping the shoulder on that inside knee. If you can, just finding that stretch here, straightening through the knee. You can use the hand for support, and then when you're ready, you can start to lift it off, coming into your compass, your seated compass. And then if you can, taking half lotus here, taking full lotus, taking the arm balance, and then rolling back out and over. So if the tights weren't so slippery, the feet would be plugged in a lot more. And then taking child's pose to come back out of it. So there's another flow that I have for a standing sequence. If you guys want to keep going, I'll just keep recording. So to start with, we're going to come back up. We'll start with warrior one. So warrior one here. I'll move the mat so it's going to grip my feet. So starting with your warrior one here, open up to warrior two. So we're lengthening through the tailbone. From here, we're going to take it into side angle. So if you can, the other thing is with warrior two, try not to have, it's a really common cue, but bring the feet 45-degree angle, and then you can start to work on a little bit of resistance through the hip socket. Otherwise, if your hip is already as open as it can go, there's no resistance tracking here. So you want to have a little bit of resistance. So again, you can work the isometric engagements through the body. Keep the pelvis straight up and down if you can. And then going for flexibility, just take that foot a little bit wider apart. So from here, we're going to go in through the side angle. This time, we just drop that elbow. We're making a shelf with that front leg. Drop the elbow and then reach the hand up high over the head. So you can bring it into a little bit of a circle here, play around with it, and then come back up through your warrior two. From here, you can add a little bit of a reverse. You can add the bind or just place the hand on the back leg for a little bit of extra support. The idea is we're really reaching up and over, and then back through your side angle here. So we're going to take the bind as you exhale. You're taking the wrap, keeping the shoulders up, and then pull the shoulders up so the shoulder is still in line with that foot. So even if you can bind, you really want to be working that line of energy from the shoulder through the crown of the head. From here, if you can, I'm going to give you the easy option next, but if you can, float the back foot towards the front of the mat, transfer the weight into that leg, and then coming up into your bird of paradise here. So you've got the bind, and then you're really working that shoulder underneath the knee, keeping the bind, finding the balance and support, find your drishti point, and then extend that leg. From here, so if you didn't have the bind, I'll show you from this side, you're just going to be coming from your side angle, pressing the foot, coming through your chair pose, straightening through your Tadasana, and then transferring the weight into the left foot, coming in through your baby tree. So you can take the tree a little bit higher, but we don't want that tree pressing into the kneecap. So it's either going to be up high or it's going to be low, or you can come into a half lotus bind here. So from here, You can reach the hands up and over the head. If you can, take the bind with this. Again, if you need a strap, it may or may not help. See if you can catch onto the big toe. And then find your balance of support. Exhale as you float the hand forward. So again, this is just coming into a tree forward fold. It's only an option, you don't need to take it. And then when you're ready, release the peace fingers around the big toe and then take that foot out in front. So from here, as you exhale, see if you can draw the foot a little bit closer. If not, don't worry about it. Keeping your balance and then exhale. So on this exhale, open the leg out to the side. Very similar to what we did with the banana. We want to keep the hip tracking over the outer edge of the foot. We don't want to be lifting the hip just to get the height of the leg. We want to be keeping the tailbone in line all the way through the crown of the head, and then open the arm out for a little bit of extra balance. So again, it's a very similar idea to what we did with pyramid. We want to be wrapping the hip underneath the body rather than extending it away. And then when you're ready, we'll go through dancer. So you just, option is to interlace the fingers together, catching on to the foot, and then exhale. And then eventually you can release one hand. Then when you're ready, we're going to take that on the other side. So coming through your warrior one. Hip square to the front of the mat. Again, taking that base of support as wide as you need to build the strength in the body. When you're ready, opening up to warrior two, the only thing you're moving is the hip, the back foot is still on a 45-degree angle. So coming into your warrior two, bend nice and long, keep the fingertips lengthened. Come in through your side angle, creating a shelf for the arm to balance on. And then exhale through your side angle. So fingertips are nice and long, all the way from, so there's a line of energy, all the way from the fingertips to the toes. That one line here. And then you can even close the fingers just to keep the energy contained. From here, you can come through your reverse warrior. Hand on the back leg, or float it behind you for a little bit of extra challenge. And then same thing. With this side angle, if you're not binding but you want a little bit more of a challenge, just release that bottom arm. So it's in line or parallel to the top arm, or even parallel to the floor. It's going to create a little bit of extra challenge in the body. So if you are binding, you're taking and wrapping and then pulling the shoulder. So it's back in line with that foot. Then from here, you step towards the front of the mat, bring that back foot towards the front of the mat, and then dropping the shoulder even more, releasing the foot and stretching it as much as you can. So again, I'll go through it. If you're not binding, you can still access the same posture. Sit, sit, good boy. All right, so coming through chair, and then taking the weight into the right leg, coming through your standing tree, or the tree's up a little bit higher, or you're coming into your lotus. So when I talked through Tadasana, I was telling you to lift the toes and press them into the mat. This time, Mons, watch out. Off you go, good boy. So you can see the alignment through the legs just a little bit better. So you lift up the toes, press them into the floor. He won't give up. All right, stay over here. Stay over here, good boy. And then we're gonna still wrap that supporting leg, wrapping the inner thigh around. And then you've got the weight distributed through the sole of the foot. So the sole of the foot and the connection to the floor is the one thing that's balancing you in this position. So you want to maximize that connection through the foot. So you're going to be transferring the weight into the four corners of the feet. And then if you have a higher arch, you're going to be pressing down in through the big toe. If you have a flatter foot, you're going to be rolling the weight to the outer edge of the foot. And then from here, hopefully that gives you a little bit more to balance with. Taking the peace fingers around the big toe, extending the foot up in front. So I'll show you from this side. Again, eventually, I've just got to find that connection. Eventually you get the leg up towards the face, but just work with where you are, just work on opening up through the leg. Keeping the hip tracking over the outer edge of the foot. Remembering, yes, you can get flexibility, but you want to go for alignment and strength, just for now. And then when you're ready, bending the foot behind you. If you want to come into interlacing the hands, and then come into your dancer's pose here. And then eventually releasing the hand out in front of the body. Again, you can play around with both lineages. One lineage is the hand out in front, straight out in front. The other one is hand up high. And then when you're ready, just slowly release. This time we are going to come down to the floor for your Savasana. I'm going to give you a 5-minute guided Savasana. So just find your relaxation here. As you lie down on the floor, taking the legs as wide as you can off the sides of the mat, and then take the hands as far away from the sides of the body as you need to. As you gently lower the eyes, you can press the shoulder blades down the spine, lengthen through the tailbone, and then just allow the body to come back to its own natural pattern of breath. As you inhale through the nose and exhale, just noticing the gentle rise and fall of the belly, noticing the expansion and contraction through the rib cage. Just allowing each gentle breath to sweep away any tension or tightness through the soles of the feet, the ankles, the calves, the hamstrings, the glutes. As you just allow the whole lower body to be completely relaxed and let go. And then as you draw the awareness now through those points of connection through the torso to the mat, the sit bones, the muscles on either side of the spine, the backs of the ribs, the shoulders, the shoulder blades. And just allow each gentle breath to anchor you deeper into those points of connection on the mat. As you draw the awareness now to the shoulders, just allow each gentle breath to sweep away any tension or tightness, any burdens that you've been carrying on your shoulders. So the upper arms, the elbows, the forearms and the fingertips are completely relaxed and free of any tension that you've been carrying here. And as you draw the awareness now through the spine, the top of the spine, lengthening through the neck, find that relaxation through the inner ear to the jawline. Allow the tongue to soften away from the roof of the mouth. Allowing the corners of the mouth to smile up into a smile. And then as you start to inhale through the nose, as you exhale, just notice the sensation of air as it brushes the top lip. Bringing the awareness now to the forehead, allowing the brow to unknit and unfurl, allowing it to soften. And then as you bring the awareness to the black space behind the forehead, just noticing any thoughts, feelings, sensations or emotions that have arisen up for you during your practice. Just noticing any thoughts that are going on in the mind without changing anything, without catching on, without judging, just allowing them to be here in your stillness. And when you're ready, as you inhale, drawing the breath through the nose and then exhale. Just drawing the breath up and down through the spine. Taking a few more rounds of breath, perhaps allowing the breath to sink deeper into the core of the body. Just allowing the idea of relaxation to sink deep within to the muscles, the bones and ligaments, the tendons, the joints. Just allowing the whole body to be fully relaxed and let go. Just knowing you're welcome to stay here for as long as you need to. However, when you're ready to bring a little bit of movement back into your body, you can start to wiggle the fingers clenching and unclenching the feet, drawing the feet together at the bottom of the mat, and then interlacing the fingertips together as you stretch them up and away from the crown of the head, finding that deep yawn through the whole body, and then gently drawing the knees in towards the chest, wrapping the hands or the forearms around the shins, and gently rocking the body side to side. So just feeling the massage of the muscles on either side of the spine. When you're ready, exhale, rolling over to one side of the mat. Just staying here for a couple of breaths, finding those feelings of comfort and security that you can return to at any time you need to throughout your day, throughout your practice, as you rest in your fetal position. And then when you're ready, start to keep your eyes closed. Press the weight of the body up through that top hand. Arrive in your comfortable seated position here. And then when you're ready, on the next inhalation, stack the inner ear over the collarbones, stacking the shoulders over the pelvis. And then when you're ready, reach the hands up and over. Palms lightly touching together at the top. As you exhale, bring the hands through heart center. Then beginning to rub the palms of the hands together, creating the element of fire here. And then gently, slowly, drawing the eyes into the palms of the hands, into the warmth that you've created. And then slowly, millimeter by millimeter, just fluttering the eyelids open, sweeping the hands down the face, down the neck, opening up through the shoulders, bringing the hands back to heart center and giving yourself a huge moment of gratitude to thank yourself for showing up on your mat and participating in such a healthy and beneficial way to promote your health, your well-being, and your lifestyle. Namaste.